What's up, folks? Lewis here in the house. It's the countdown to today's show. Tuesday, we have a packed house today. We have the return of Andrea Burkhart. We're going to be talking about several things, including Gabby Petito, Brian Laundrie, Brian Kohlberger, and the incident from Alhambra, Monterey Park, here in California. And we have special guest Jules, who's going to be coming in here. So stay tuned to Nerd Report. To go. What's up, Tammy? What's up, Miss Kim? What's up, D-Nice? Mad Mac, Miss Ace. How are you? Aaron, good to see you. Bonnie Land. Gwen. Melissa, what is up? Hit the like button. Yeah, that was an epic cough. What up, folks? Lewis here, Nerd Report in the house. Thanks for tuning in here on a Tuesday edition of Nerd Report. January 24th. Thanks for picking Nerd Report for news today as we are ready to report on several things right here. As my phone's already starting to blow up. I don't get anyone calling me until, I don't get anyone calling me until I go live. No one cares about me until I go live. It's very, very weird. Not just kidding. People do care. But we have a few things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Brian Kohlberger. We're going to talk about, the Petito case and the mass shooting tragedy that happened here in Alhambra, in the Alhambra area here in California. And Bay Moon, is that the name of the place? We'll get down to it. We have also expert analysis by Andrea Burkhart, who's been here before. She was here a couple weeks ago. She's a great guest and stuff. And of course, we have our very own Jules, who's been waiting patiently. We'll get Jules in here right now because she's really done something extraordinary today, and I want her to let you know herself, because she's been following the Gabby Petito case more than anyone I know. And here we go. Let's get her in here, as she was on location at the court today. Let's see. You're on the air, Jules. How are you?
Fine, Lewis. How are you?
Good, good, good. Yeah, congratulations. You were on location today?
I was.
Yeah. So before we start, did you message Andrea?
I sent her the link.
Okay, perfect. So we'll be waiting for her. She should be coming in here in a bit. But yeah, so we got the three topics: Gabby Petito case, the Idaho 4, and the mass shooting. We could ask her about it as well, but we could start off. Let's start off things so we're not all over the place. And everyone in the comments, feel free to join in anytime you like. So today, it's the case, the lawsuit with the Petito family against the Laundries, correct? What is that
That's
about?
correct.
What is that about? Just to catch everyone up.
Okay. When Gabby was missing, we all basically knew that Brian Laundrie, Roberta and Chris's son, was more than likely responsible for her being missing. And when the Petito family, Joe Petito and Nicole Schmidt, were looking for her, the Laundries would not respond to the parents of Gabby at all in any way, shape, or form, ignoring phone calls, text messages, everything. And they hired an attorney the minute Brian came home. And the attorney was making public statements on behalf of the Laundries. And one of the statements that was made, and it was made in behalf of the Laundrie family. Now, this is not verbatim, but this is the gist, the core of the statement was that the Laundries are hoping that the Petito family would be reunited with Gabby very shortly, leading them to believe that Gabby was alive, when in fact that they knew that she was not. And it was just, he made the statement. He made the statement several times. And then we all know what happened in September. They found Gabby unalived, thanks to a YouTuber.
Well, we got Andrea in here. Let's introduce her because she's our special guest here as well. She was. You were covering the case too. First of all, welcome and thanks for coming back. I know you can't see me now, but you could be able to hear me, and you probably see Jules. So I apologize. We're using a different format today, but welcome back.
No worries. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. A lot of people really enjoyed your coverage last time and stuff. So thanks for everything. And are you up to date with what happened with Gabby Petito? With the case?
Well, so yeah, just kind of generally, like I'm waiting to hear from Julie kind of as much as everybody else, because this is one of those cases that I haven't followed it as closely as I'd like to, but it's one that for people who like to follow the legal stuff, it's a great one to follow because you can get the court documents for free. That's a rare thing. So I have been aware of what's been happening, but I'm dying to hear about today's hearing.
Well, just so you know, Jules was on location, and we're very proud of her because she did what reporters are supposed to do. She took charge. I didn't ask her to go. She just on her own. She goes, I'm going to be there, and a lot of the news broadcasts were using her question, and that was cool. I got 20 phone calls in the morning. Jules is on TV. Jules is on TV. I'm like, what? I'm just waking up, and I'm like, wow, that's some great news. So congratulations to Jules.
That's awesome.
Once again. So Jules, you were updating us, and if you have any questions for Andrea, please feel free to include those.
Oh, I've got questions. So what happened is then ultimately Gabby is found, and then approximately I think it was like approximately a month later, Brian Laundrie's body was found right down the road from where I lived. And he unalived himself, left a note, blah, 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 all of that. Fast forward to Joe Petito and Nicole Schmidt decided to file a lawsuit against the Laundries because they feel that they intentionally caused harm and malicious intent by not answering their phone calls, by not answering their text messages, by not cooperating with authorities on the whereabouts of their daughter, and that they knew full well that Gabby was no longer alive, and that they were covering for Brian. And then in the interim, when they did find Brian Laundrie, and that's a whole nother story on how he got away, but we're not going to go there. There was a note, an 8-page note, that basically he confessed to unaliving her. But there was also a letter from Roberta Laundrie to Brian Laundrie. We do not know the entire contents of the letter as of yet. And again, Stephen Bertolino was the attorney that represented the Laundries from the time Gabby was reported missing. And according to him, he's still representing them, but he's not. But there was a letter from mother to son, and it had to do with, I'll help you, and a shovel. That's all we know for sure. The contents of the letter has not been released. So this is where we are. The judge, back in late summer, there was a hearing. A motion was put forth through the court on whether or not the Petitos could sue the Laundries under these circumstances. And lo and behold, if anyone did not watch that hearing at the time, that judge, which is not the same judge from today, that judge actually cited Johnny Depp case and said, you know, we just got done having a case where there was a situation where, you know, his lawyer, it could be said, was making a statement on his client's behalf. So he allowed the Petitos to go forward and sue the Laundries. Now, this hearing today was Mr. Luca, who was representing the Laundries, which they were not in court today. The Petito family was. And he is saying that, number one, the motion to include Mr. Bertolino in the suit was delayed. It came in past the deadline. And number two is because there's the client attorney privilege that's involved, and that also he used the excuse that even though he was Brian's attorney as well, even though Brian is deceased, that the client attorney privilege still is intact. Mr. Riley, the Petito's attorney, argued that point and argued fiercely, and the end result was the judge ruled in favor of the Petitos.
Wow.
Trial is scheduled for August.
Andrea, has that ever happened? Is this the first time that you see an attorney now is in the defense?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not something that you see very common. And it's so funny that you mentioned that with the Depp case, because of course that's the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear about this type of situation. And so what's interesting about this scenario is that this attorney for the Petitos is pursuing the strategy that it was my view Amber Heard really needed to pursue in Virginia. If she was serious about that, she needed to sue Adam Waldman, because Adam Waldman is then the one who can turn around and say, no, I'm not responsible for that. That was based on, my representation of Johnny Depp. It was part of my representation of him. He's the one that's responsible. And then when you do it that way, you sort of create a situation where it's up to you guys. If you want to fight it out between you, you're going to waive attorney-client privilege. That's inherent in having that type of conflict between you. If you decide you just want to suck it up, and deal with it on your own, that's fine. That's your prerogative. But so that's really the play that this lawyer has achieved, is he's really kind of set them potentially against each other in a way that could basically force them to really need to waive.
Awesome. Well, and real quick, I want to say hello to all the Popcorn Planeteers. We've been rated, so thank you. You're in the middle of some live coverage here on Nerd Report. Special guest, Andrea Burkhart. You may know her channel. If you don't, mods, please share her channel so she could get at least 5 views from us. Dang, she needs more than that, from us. I want to, hook her up with a little something for her time. Of course, she's awesome. And of course, Jules, who just, she's on it with the Petito case. She was on location today, and she pulled a baller move. The lawyer was about to move. He's like, how they go and they talk to the press and they're like, okay, no more questions. And he's about to move away, and she's like, you're answering my question. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. Like, she pulled him back and asked him the question.
I did not physically touch him. I verbally.
Yeah. Well, I could hear you go, no, you're not. You're not leaving. What was the question you asked? If you want to remind everyone, we have the video up.
Oh, God. Well, gosh. Well, I asked him, I asked him when he came into court, did he go in there with the confidence of, achieving what he set out to achieve? Did he expect Judge Brewer? Because this is a different judge now. Now the judges have changed that judge is no more. Now we have a new judge that's going to see this matter through. Were you expecting that, or I don't remember how I worded it now, Louis, but in any case, his answer was yes. He felt that, he had enough of grounds. It was, he cited several cases, and he said he went in there with the full confidence of being able to walk out of there today with the results that they wanted. And now depositions were supposed to take place today. The laundries were supposed to be deposed. So I asked him about that, and he said no, that they were being postponed because there's been some discovery issues of things that have not yet come in, and you can't do a deposition unless you have everything you need in front of them. And then I also asked, well, now that Stephen Bertolino is going to be sitting next to laundries, is he subjected to deposition? And he said, yes, he is.
Andrea, I was going to ask you too, because Bertolino, and last time you were here, we were talking about several things, but we talked about perception and the jury and stuff like that. How Amber Heard, in my opinion, shot herself in the foot by posing for pictures as she was blowing her nose, just making it so obvious. She was just unlikable all the way around, right? She couldn't do a better job trying to have the jury dislike her. But my question to every expert I've spoken to was does perception play a role in what the jury decides? And I always get kind of a mixed answer on that. That being said, Stephen Bertolino, he's very unlikable. He comes out as an ass. Are you familiar with him? Yes. Right?
Just from the bits that I've seen, he's a type.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that's gonna be a problem for him?
I I mean, it can be, the bottom line is that the jury is tasked with determining what happened. And that includes who's credible and who's not. Who do I believe here and who do I not? And so if you don't like someone, you're just going to be less inclined to believe that person, to give them the benefit of the doubt. Right. If there's questions, if they're arguing with somebody that you like a lot more, those types of things, we are just human. Those do factor into the decision making. I think that the issue with Mr. Bertolino is because he comes across as, a little bit of a sort of gruff, somewhat aggressive, type of attorney.
The opposite of you, like you're someone I would like hang out with, and stuff. And I consider I don't know, my perception of you is that we could be friends, we could be friends, hang out, and very trustworthy, right? Very honest.
Well, thank you. I try to be cool.
Yeah.
And I've just found that it works better. You get more of what you want from people if you work with them than, if you're trying to bash heads with them all the time. Different methods work for different people, but yeah, that's my strategy. It's not Mr. Bertolino's strategy.
Well, with him, I think he's trying to sell me a used car that's broken at a 4 times the cost.
Well, and I think part of the challenge with it is that it's kind of hard to get a feel for how much of what he does is just him being him, his kind of own impulse and sort of what he's inclined to do versus, he's taking strict instructions from his clients that he's, carrying out to the letter. I get a little more of an impression that a jury could, see this guy as maybe potentially a bit of a loose cannon. And so that could be something that really all the parties have to consider how that could play in to their causes of action and what they're trying to prove.
But him being an attorney, does that give him a little bit of an advantage to answer questions? No, I mean, he must like know how to fight back, how to not answer incorrectly. You know what I mean?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, a deposition is a lawyer's worst nightmare. They're all good at conducting them,
Oh, sure.
but actually being in the hot seat, it's a totally different situation. He is absolutely going to have his own attorney. He will have an attorney there with him at the deposition, just like anybody else. If he is smart, he will listen to that attorney and take that attorney's advice and not try to second guess it. And that's part of the point, is that the reason why you have an attorney in a setting like that, in part, can be to help protect you against some of your worst instincts,
Right.
Things that maybe you think are going to help, but you don't really have the best judgment to make that decision. So I don't know that it necessarily gives him a huge advantage. Sure, he's going to have a little bit of a better sense of the rules and the procedure, and it's not going to be so foreign to him. But when it comes down to actually, being in the thick of it and figuring out, what am I supposed to answer and how am I supposed to answer it, he's going to be in the same reactive type of situation as really anybody else is going to be.
I'd like to add something in case the chat and Lewis, I know that you're not aware of this, but Stephen Bertolino is not a criminal defense attorney. So that's mistake. And Andrea, please correct me if my opinion is way off base here. But that's the biggest hurdle I think he undertook when he took on this case. He's not a resident of Florida. He's from New York. He's a real estate attorney. He's personal friends with the Laundries, and he dug himself into a hole, in my opinion. Andrea, what say you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't necessarily have a problem with those specific parts of his involvement. I mean, again, we're human. And if somebody I love and care about has a problem, I'm going to do my best to help them. And frankly, that will usually mean finding them somebody with the expertise, that I don't have. But you do what you can with the circumstances that are presented to you. The big mistake that I think he made is the agreement to represent all three of them at the same time. That was not a smart move, because it's very evident from the outset that Brian Laundrie is in peril. I mean, there is something to this story that implicates him. This is where potentially having a background as a criminal defense attorney might have helped him navigate this situation a little bit better, because you frankly often have to anticipate that people are lying to you. And so you can't just assume, okay, what Brian Laundrie is telling me, I'm just going to take it all at face value, and we're going to all build our joint strategy around that. That is very imprudent. That is not being particularly protective of these family members that, ostensibly are the ones that you're trying to help out here. So my view, he really needed to make a decision at the beginning, whether he was going to represent Brian or whether he was going to represent the parents, and getting entangled in the morass of trying to navigate all three of them at once is really probably what caused the problem here.
I see. Also, now, Mr. Luca, who is the attorney for the Laundries, didn't speak for Stephen Bertolino, because I questioned him, outside the courthouse as well. But he intimated that Stephen Bertolino will probably put in a motion to dismiss what the judge ruled today. I get that that's normal. He's going to do that just like any other person is. One of two things. What happened today, would you agree that this pretty much was history in the making, that, judges don't normally will put an attorney sitting next to their clients as co-defendant? And number two, it's going to go back in front of this same judge. What do you think the likelihood of her saying, I'm not going to throw it out, considering what her ruling was today?
Yeah, well, it's definitely an unusual enough of a situation that you can assume the judge did not just decide to do this off the cuff. Okay, the judge looked at the reasons that she was given, looked at the law that was cited, and all of that, and made a decision based on those considerations. So, I mean, yes, they're likely to move to dismiss. That is the obvious procedural move, but a lot of that ground was already plowed with this objection to even being able to get to this point to add him as a defendant. One of the arguments that the Laundries had raised is that, it would be futile because it's not the type of, he can't be legally liable for it anyway. So that's kind of a preview, in essence, of what that argument is going to consist of. So the court has already kind of had to work through that whole implication in order to get to this point. So unless there's something groundbreaking and different that they haven't already brought, then it doesn't seem like a very good likelihood to me that they're, going to get a different outcome. It may be a situation where they try to seek interlocutory review, meaning have the Court of Appeals look at this decision before. Normally you have to wait to appeal decisions until the entire case is done. But in very rare circumstances, they'll let you do it early. And this might be a situation where they would consider it just because of those factors being implicated with the attorney-client relationship. And, once that confidentiality has been breached, you can't get that back after an appeal. So it's a situation where there is kind of irreparable harm if it turns out this judge did get it wrong. So that is something possible that we could see. But yeah, they're going to go through the procedural steps that are open to them at pretty much at every point.
I see.
Real quick, before we continue, and Jules, I don't know how much time Andrea has. How much time do you have, I'll just ask.
Oh, I've got like another hour about.
Okay, sweet,
little more.
Sweet. But before we continue, I just want to say, because there's a lot of concern about our very own Brandon Torres. I just talked to him. There's a storm in this area, and his house got some damage, and we're gonna be calling him after. So you guys want to stick around and stuff like that. We're gonna be see if there's any way we can support him, or just give him some, I don't know, some moral support or something. But he's gonna be calling the show, and we're gonna be discussing what happened, which I'm not even 100% sure. But he seems to be safe, but his internet is down, so that's good news. But we'll get to that. I know there's a lot of concern in the community right here in the chat asking about him. So, Jules, anything else about the Petito before we move to our next?
Mr. Riley, the Petito's attorney, indicated that there has been issues with getting discovery on time, which is hindering them moving forward in a faster pace. So he did say, even though the hearing is still on the actual trial is still on the docket for August, but he did tell us outside the courthouse today, don't be a bit surprised if it doesn't get delayed. Is this normal practice for, discovery being, taking so long, and, it is?
Frankly, yes. Frankly,
Okay.
yes. I mean, there is no civil case without discovery disputes. If somebody has one, shoot it my way. I'd love to read it. It sounds fantastic. But no, this is just kind of par for the course. And part of the issue with that too is because courts are typically understaffed, high volume, lots of stuff going on, and so they have a hard time scheduling things to resolve these disputes in a timely fashion. It looks like Florida is not as bad as California. California is still scheduling things out like 6-8 months to get a motion hearing. Florida, it's more like a couple. But I did see that somebody had filed a motion to compel relating to discovery disputes, and I think that was filed in December or maybe early this month. They've got a hearing set for it in March.
Yes,
so yeah,
I'll be there.
I mean, if it's going to take time to work through those types of details, then yeah, it's going to inevitably delay the whole process. Because like you said, you can't do the depositions until you've done the preliminary discovery that you need to be able to have my documents to show you and ask you about and so forth.
How do lawyers practice not putting their not putting their foot in their mouth? Like, you know what I mean?
It's a professional hazard.
Okay. Because to say the wrong thing that could incriminate, or ruin their case, right? Especially when they're getting questioned by people like Jules or something that's just like really sneaky with their questions. So like, how do you all get prepared for that? Is there something that's natural, or is it schooling, or?
Well, I think the natural instinct for most attorneys is to shut up. When you're being publicly questioned about stuff, you say as little as possible because you're so aware of the risk of the misstep. And it's so just ingrained in you that, confidentiality. Your default is kind of always, I can't really talk about my cases. And so my perspective is that most of the time, if you're asking me about something, I'm either going to, give you a very general answer, that isn't probably very helpful or insightful, maybe something that's already in the public records, or I'm just going to decline to answer. It's just too much peril, if you get too creative with your advocacy.
Andrea, I have a question in regards to how it played out in front of the judge this morning. When we were sitting there and the judge got on the bench, she told Mr. Riley, make your case, basically. Those weren't her words, but you know what I mean. But what he did was he stood up and he said, he said, Your Honor, I would like to, again, not verbatim, but hold what I would like to present to the court, I would like Mr. Luca to go first, and then I'll respond to him. And so she granted that. And, as I said, Mr. Luca gave those points. But it seemed like Mr. Riley knew or anticipated what Mr. Luca was going to say, because then when it was his turn, he apologized to the court. He says, I'm sorry I didn't produce this, sooner, but here, and he had cases that he was going to cite, and he gave to the judge, and he gave to Mr. Luca, and he just got up there on the podium and he just rattled, not reading, but saying what he needed to say. And on every key point that Mr. Luca said, Mr. Riley had a comeback for, but he was able to cite law and cite fact. What do you think about that tactic that he used about not going first by letting the defendant go first?
Yeah, it's a little unusual also, but I kind of like it. So the normal structure of the argument is that the moving party gets to go first, and then whoever is responding goes second, and then the moving party gets a chance to respond. And so typically what they'll do is you'll allocate the time between them. So say we've got half an hour for this hearing, you each get 15 minutes. You can split that up how you want. If you want to have 5 minutes to make your case and then 10 minutes to reply to the other side, you can do that. If you want to spend 13 minutes, now and then 2, you can do that. So deferring the entire case to rebuttal is clever, and I kind of respect that. It sounds like he does maybe know that he was kind of operating from the back foot, that he needed to focus more on being able to respond to the points that the Petitos, were making, more than he really had anything concrete to say in support of his own arguments. So it does make some sense to me. Yeah, kind of like the idea.
It worked. It worked, and I could honestly say that when I was sitting in the front row with the Petito family, but I was down further. I didn't want to crowd them. But when the judge said that she granted this to the Petito, I wasn't like. I stood there stunned. I sat there stunned because everybody kept saying, no, he's a lawyer. No, there's no way that, he's going to become a party to this. And I had to look next to shout out to Allison from WFLA, who was sitting next to me. I said, did I just hear her correctly? She ruled in their favor. And she goes, she sure did. And I looked, and, Nicole Schmidt, Gabby's mom, teared up, and her grandmother was sitting in the same row with me. They were clearly very pleased. They have been to every hearing. The Laundries have yet to step foot in a courtroom. Is that a bad look for them?
It's just hard to say. It's hard to know what the trade-off is, I can't imagine they're, going to receive a warm reception if they show up. They don't have a broad base of support. So it's just kind of a pick your evil situation. If you're not there, people can imagine the worst about you. But if you show up, they might see it for themselves. You just don't know.
I see. Well, all in all, I think today was a good day.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it was a good day. Now,
okay.
Are we moving?
Let's move to a new topic if you all don't mind. Of course, our the thing we've been covering a lot of until I guess the news is kind of really slowing down.
I have breaking news.
Well, you know what? Break that news, because I have no idea what it is. Go for it.
Andrea, I'm going to assume that you also heard this today. This came out approximately 4:00 this afternoon, my time, so
8
3
o'clock.
hours earlier. 4:00 my time. So what is that? 1:00 your time?
That's 1:00. Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know.
Okay. Ann Taylor, who is obviously the public defender for Brian Kohlberger,
Yeah.
was actually on a case defending one of the victims. I don't want to say which one because I mean, I know who it is, but I'm just not comfortable, but was defending one of the victims' mothers. And I don't want to say what the charge was for either. And it has not gone to court. This was just revealed today, and she was assigned Kohlberger on December 30th, and it's been reported today that on January 5th, she withdrew from the victim's mom's case, like she's not going to defend her any longer. Andrea, I'm kind of frustrated with this. What say you?
Well, okay. So I was aware of Ann Taylor's representation of the mother at least a week ago. It was like some time ago. And it was because I had heard, some of these rumors and speculation and stuff that go through the grapevine. I wanted to do a little bit of fact checking, so I looked into the mother's history and I found that information. So yes, what happened was that Ann Taylor has actually represented her in multiple cases. This isn't the only time. There have been others as well. I won't get into the details of the charges either, except to say that from my standpoint as a criminal defense lawyer, they're mostly pretty petty. So yes, what happened is that Ann Taylor got appointed to represent Brian Kohlberger on December the 30th. Now, okay, important context for this event. Idaho has very specific standards that have to be followed for public defenders. This is the product of a lawsuit. Basically, the ACLU sued the state and argued that the public defense system was inadequate. They were systematically, depriving people of their basic right to counsel. If your lawyer has 100 billion cases and they can't spend any time with you, do you really have a lawyer at all?
Yeah.
So part of the settlement process there was to require the state to adopt some very stringent requirements for the types of qualifications attorneys need to have, the number of cases that they can maintain, and for things like capital cases as well, like what the team needs to look like, who needs to be on that team, and what their experience needs to be. So Ann Taylor is the only capital qualified defense attorney in northern Idaho. There are two others in northern Idaho. One of them is also in the public defender's office. And the other one is up in Bonner County, which is about 150 miles away from Latah County. But neither of those two are qualified to be lead counsel in a capital case. That is only Ann Taylor. And so then one of the other requirements that they have in the Idaho rules is that in a capital case, the lead attorney needs to be appointed preferably before the initial hearing, but absolutely, no later than at the initial hearing. So this was something that I saw a lot of kind of talk about, conversation about why did she get appointed so early? She wasn't, they didn't have the hearing yet, she's already on board. She's already filing motions for him and that type of thing. That is my interpretation of the court following this requirement. That's, they're anticipating this is a potential capital case. So they need to get the lead capital attorney on as soon as possible. So that's why, in my view, she was selected. There are other potential lead defense attorneys who would be available from other parts of the state. The problem is they would have to travel to be able to do that. And, the county, when they're evaluating who do we want to appoint, they're going to pick the one that has the lowest travel cost, not, the guy that has to drive 300 miles every one way to get there. So just one of those kind of pragmatic considerations that goes into that type of thing. So the appointment happens, and then, yes, there are some subsequent withdrawals. So what happened? I'm trying to think of how to explain this without getting too much into the details of these cases. Basically, the mother has 2 open criminal cases right now, but they are both on warrant status. And what that means is that she did not appear for a scheduled court hearing. So the case wasn't allowed to go forward, and the judge issues a warrant, basically, puts the case on hold until she's apprehended and, brought back into court. So in a lot of situations, that just kind of stays everything. In many courts, they will automatically withdraw the attorney at that point in time, because you have no idea when, if ever, that person is ever going to get apprehended on that warrant. They could show up 10 years from now, and that attorney of record is long gone, retired, dead, something. So you end up having to play a lot of replacement like that anyway.
Right.
It doesn't look like there's a routine practice of that in these particular counties, but I just bring that up as kind of part of the context of how all of this is fleshing out. So yes, she then, Ann Taylor then filed a notice of substitution and withdrawal, and they appointed a conflict public defender to represent the mother in her place. So this has created all kinds of questions about conflicts of interest and what does this mean? Should she have, been appointed in the first place? How do these types of decisions get made? How does all this stuff work out? So yeah, there are a lot of lawyers looking at this situation, looking at the ethics rules and stuff like that, because intuitively it sounds bad,
It does sound bad.
Accused murderer, and the family member,
right? And
it sounds bad.
It's like a slap in the face to the victim's family. I mean, that's my personal opinion.
It sounds like from here. Well, I guess it's way more complicated than we can imagine. Not being in the field really, but it sounds like the defendant has an unfair advantage. Like they know the family a little more, maybe like they spoke about other things. Maybe they brought up their kids at one point. Is that something, an argument, Andrea?
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate question.
Yes, that's really the issue here. That's the core of the issue here, because while it sounds bad to represent both a murderer, accused murderer, and family member, of the victim, that is not in and of itself inherently a conflict of interest, because their interests are not necessarily opposed. You aren't necessarily in a situation where you have to throw one under the bus to save the other. So it really depends on these types of things. What type of information did she get from the mother? And is that information that she would potentially find herself in a situation with Brian Kohlberger that she needs to use that, she needs to disclose that in order to benefit his case? That's a big risk. And that's the core of the conflict of interest problem, is you can't be loyal to both of these. So you have to pick one. No, the law doesn't allow you to do that. You have to be loyal to both of them.
Wow. So then shouldn't she step away? Shouldn't she step away from Brian Kohlberger's case as well?
Well, so that's the question, is what is the situation right now? And the answer is we just don't know. We don't know what precipitated this. My perspective, like I said, on its face, this is not a disqualifying conflict. Like if all we had is just this is the relationship between the people, that's not a disqualifying conflict. But that can easily become a disqualifying conflict depending on how the case or the investigation evolves. If, for example, the mother, like you pointed out, needs to be a witness and she's going to be a witness against Brian Kohlberger and she has something material to say. Well, now Brian Kohlberger needs to cross-examine her and needs to, potentially put her credibility at issue, that type of thing. That's not something you do to somebody to whom you owe a duty of loyalty. It's, you don't put them on the stand and call them a liar. So, that type of thing can evolve depending on just where the investigation goes and how the information comes out. Now, we don't know what information Ann Taylor had when she was handed this case, on December the 30th. As far as we know right now, I don't see anything that suggests to me that the mother is likely to be a witness. She's certainly not in the probable cause affidavit. From just the little I've seen from an interview that she gave, it doesn't necessarily sound like she has a whole lot of personal knowledge of anything that would really be helpful. So it's possible that there is in fact something there in the investigation, and that that was given to Ann Taylor early on. But I really doubt that, because that would have caused it to be caught in a conflict check type of situation. So normally when you get a new criminal case, first thing you do, you get the case, you get the probable cause affidavit. If you've got a police report, you get that, and you're name checking everybody, all of the witnesses, all of the police officers, the defendant, everybody, because you have to identify where these potential problems can come up.
But the victims' names were out there pretty much from the get-go. Ann Taylor had to know these names. And then once she was assigned to the case, I mean, why didn't she, or we don't know if she did or not. So, but I would think that she would have stepped up and say, I represent one of the victims. Moms.
Well, this is, like I said, because the victim and the victim's mother is not the same, and so it's not in and of itself inherently disqualifying. So if the mother is never a witness in the case, then it's very possible that this potential conflict, it never ripens. And, other than the kind of personal issues that I think you can anticipate with, trying to navigate these relationships at the same time, there isn't any legal restraint on her ability to do her job perfectly well for both of them. So she does have, I don't want to say a duty to let the conflict ripen. You do want to try to anticipate them. But I am saying I haven't seen anything at this point in time that suggests that the mother would be in the type of position where that conflict is likely to ripen. Now, the other factor here is we don't know what has caused her to do this withdrawal and substitution. There are a couple of possibilities. I don't think she hasn't been formally disqualified by the court from representing them, because that's a separate thing. A disqualification is something that's different from a withdrawal and a substitution. So this is a decision that she made. She may have made it with the assistance, of the court or the input of the court, but it's something voluntary that she did. So then the question is, why did she do that? And there's a couple possible reasons for that as well. One, yes, it's possible she's gotten discovery now, and, mom is going to be a witness, and it's all over there, and it's crystal clear. And she's like, oh, okay, I got to get out. I can't possibly maintain this. That's possible. I don't think it's likely, but that is possible. Another possibility is under those standards that we talked about before for Idaho for public defenders, they have caseload limits. This is one of the protections we also have in Washington that's kind of supposed to help people, have an attorney who actually has time to pay attention to your case. You only get to take so many cases. And so with capital cases, one case is equivalent to half of a full-time caseload. So assuming that she is a normal, busy public defender with a full-time caseload, she gets a capital case. She's got probably half a caseload that is going to need to go and be reassigned now. She can't be the person who is representing all of these different people. So I would very much expect that she is filing a lot of these substitutions in a lot of different matters for a whole variety of reasons. So then the question is, well, if it's just for caseload related limits, why did they specifically bring in a conflict public defender, somebody from outside of the office? Why didn't they just reassign it to somebody in the public defender's office? And the reason for that is, I think, likely what you're talking about. They're anticipating the possibility. This is an abundance of caution type of maneuver, because yes, it can ripen into a conflict. And there's other situations I can think think of too that could just make the whole situation very murky. What if the mother decides to sue Brian Kohlberger for wrongful death? And that just potentially muddies the waters in terms of your information and who it benefits and all of that type of thing. So there are ways that could be, it could end up being unsustainable anyway. So get this woman the conflict attorney now, and then we don't have to worry about it later on. She's got continuity of representation as well. The last possible reason that I can think of is it's very possible that the mother asked her, to withdraw. I don't want you as my lawyer anymore. That does happen sometimes. Now, I have to say, in my experience as a public defender, the fact that your clients don't like your other clients is not usually going to be grounds to get you removed. That happens all the time. I live in an area where we have a lot of gang crime, and so my Sereno clients really don't like that I also get Norteño clients on but that's just part of how it is.
Where you're at?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. I didn't think...
And so you just have to deal with that type of thing. That in and of itself is not going to get them a new attorney. But again, if it becomes a situation where, okay, this one's giving me information about this other one or about, this crime that this other one is involved in, that turns into an actual conflict of interest between these particular people. And now I've got to get out. So it normally wouldn't be enough to just be like, I don't like that you're representing this guy. That is appalling and offensive to me. And I, don't want anything to do with it. But I think under these circumstances, it's pretty understandable, that really anybody would feel that way. And so I can see it being a situation where if she did ask, Anne is not going to probably try to argue with her about that. And so that would likely get some consideration, just given, what she's had to go through.
Is Brian, because I know you've been doing the rounds, because people have been asking you to go on their show and also on your channel, Andrea Burkhart. Make sure everyone, all the mods, please share our link so we get her a few more subs from here. We'll almost have 500 people watching. If we could get some more likes up, it would be great. Also, press 1 if you're new to the channel and let us know what city, country you're watching us from, because that always fascinates me, where people are actually tuning in from, and it's just cool. But have you noticed that after, the past week, maybe, do you think the news has died down, interest on this case has died down, or has it stayed the same? What have you noticed?
Well, I think the interest is still very high, but yes, the spigot is turned off, or at least it's lowered, because now the only information that there is to report on is the independent investigation and the quote unquote anonymous leaks. So yeah, we are still getting drip fed kind of little bits and pieces of things. I saw one of the things that came out just recently was the email communications between Brian Kohlberger and I think it was the chief of police in Moscow, Idaho, when he interviewed for the internship, or not in Moscow, in Pullman, when he interned for the public safety internship position. And apparently a reporter got that through a public records request. So, independent investigation like that is likely to continue. And so we'll probably get some information that way. The challenge with that is always, from my perspective, kind of sorting out, what is meaningful and what is not, because a lot of that stuff can end up not being admissible in court, not being relevant for one reason or another. So it gives you a little more chaff, to have to sort through to get the good stuff. But I suspect that, we're going to continue to see information, even though technically the gag order should have us, relatively silent until the preliminary hearing in June.
When you say us, does that include because there's a little bit of a debate. I don't think it affects independent journalists, but are you talking about people who actually know or are involved with the case? Is that who the gag order is towards? Or is it actually I can't report something if I get a leak or I'll get in trouble? What is it?
Yeah, no, It definitely does not apply to you.
Damn it.
The
I wanted in on
parameters of who it applies to is rather ambiguous. It is one of the critical problems with this order, in my opinion, because they're trying to make it apply to the people that are participants in the legal process, but it's not very clear exactly where those boundaries are. And I'll give you an example. When the public records from Whitman County, the search warrant stuff, the affidavit and everything, when folks were looking into that because the order sealing it, somebody got that and published that, question came up, well, what do you do with this? Well, I have a relationship with the Whitman County prosecutor. I've handled cases over there. I asked the Whitman County prosecutor, hey, what's up with this? Is this, I've read it. I see the basis. It seems to me like that basis is no longer existing. Are you intending to move to unseal it? And he said, yes, he is. So I put that on my Twitter account, and, about a week later, that's what happened. So the question had come up in that process, well, but didn't that violate the gag order? Well, he's a prosecuting attorney. He's an independent elected official in a different county, in a different state. He's got his own responsibilities to his constituents and his own job that he needs to do. So is he, an agent of the party in any kind of meaningful sense that this gag order would be applied to him? Personally, I don't see it. But that is the type of ambiguity that these orders are really required to not have in them if they're going to survive a legal challenge. And I bring that up because it's being reported that Associated Press and some other news agencies are planning to challenge this gag order.
Yeah.
And,
21 news agencies.
Yeah.
We should just go in on that.
From day one, yeah, I think they have a very good shot at very least getting it narrowed, getting it refined, getting it clarified. But yes, gag orders are extremely disfavored, and so when you make them so loosey-goosey like this that you don't know if you're allowed to speak or not, that's a recipe for the gag order not being upheld.
Well, doesn't it also scare off people who would like maybe someone who's a bit less experienced than we are here and just say, well, maybe we can't report on it? Isn't that the entire point? Because that gag order, honestly, like when Jules read it, like we got a tip from Andrea, shout out to you. Jules read it. We did a video right away.
Audrey, it was
Audrey, sorry. Well, you read it. Yeah, you read it.
I know. I read it, and it was very
Jules. I don't even remember my own name. So yeah. So be happy. Not just kidding. So listen. Here's the deal, though. It sounded like to me like she was upset, and she opened the window and started yelling out the window. It wasn't specific at all. We were questioning it, like, who does it? Are they talking to us? Like, which we know she didn't have any legal standing.
It was very broad. I mean, it was so broad. And I took from it, I won't speak for Lewis, but I'll speak for myself. I was quite confused. And the only thing that I could think of, well, your opinion, Andrea, it seems like this amended gag order came out smack right after the Instagram story came out, which leads me to believe that there may have been some truth to the Instagram story, because why would the judge amend this gag order? Number one. And then number two, I'm thinking with these people that are speaking out, well, I remember him, doing X, Y, and Z, and this is how he was 5 years ago. Or the neighbor said, oh, he was vacuuming all night. And, all of these people talking, aren't they potential witnesses for the prosecution?
Yeah, they are potential witnesses. And that's part of, that's part of what makes a gag order on potential witnesses like almost impossible to sustain, because who is a witness is very flexible. That can change all the time. You can be a witness one day, not a witness the next.
Yeah.
Are you a witness if you have spoken to the police, but you haven't been placed on somebody's formal witness list? Are you not a witness until you've received a subpoena for trial? I mean, these are very serious questions that you have to answer when you're talking about shutting up people who have their right of free speech to be able to talk about their experience and what they've learned and all of that. So, yeah, I mean, I am 100% treating the order as though it does not apply to me, and I will, stand by that. And should anyone try to enforce it against me, I would have no problem taking them to school on that.
Yeah, nice.
So I'm not offering any legal advice, but I'm just telling you what I would be doing.
Hey, don't be fooled, ladies and gentlemen. This lady boxes, okay? Don't be fooled. This lady will knock you out, okay? It's those with what they call it, baby face assassins in boxing. We got several of them, So circling back, and I want to go back to that. What Jules brought up is the Instagram and also the restaurant. I want to go back to that because the restaurant, I think that's where the gag order came from. But real quick, going back to the apparently Kohlberger applied to be a police officer, work with the police department. Does that move the needle anywhere in the court? Because it sounds like to me it's, again, how would I say, related to the criminology. He was a criminologist first, and he wanted to be so good at it, allegedly, that he went to the dark side to understand the criminal mind a little better. Does that seem like that's the case here? I mean, does it move the needle anywhere?
I mean, if that is the theory that the state ends up going with, then I suppose that this email does give them a little bit of help for that. Personally, I didn't really find it real significant. He's a PhD student. It's kind of expected that he's going to be trying to do field work, get practical experience and in that kind of thing. And because he's in criminology, it is kind of normal that he would be working with the people in the criminal justice system. All that I really got from it was the fact that this was the only exchange that they got from a public records request suggests very strongly to me there was no follow-up. Okay, he didn't get the job. There's no email afterwards, saying, when can you start? Just this very nice, brush off. Thanks for your time and conversation.
Man, it's so weird though. It's so weird to think that someone that may have done this could have been a cop, that's, and look, would that have stopped him from doing stuff, or would it have made him even better at it?
I doubt it. I mean, wasn't the Golden State Killer? Wasn't he a cop for a while? I think it's not that uncommon. I don't think it's that uncommon.
Andrea, Lewis brought up about the Mad Greek restaurant, and he and I have a difference of opinion on this matter.
And mine is right.
We're about to find out.
Well, let's ask Andrea. Let's make a little bit of a case. Make your case in a minute, which I know you can, and I'll make mine, and then Andrea will decide. Let's see. I'll see. Yeah. What's your?
Okay. Number one, I do not believe the story that's out there from the so-called former employee.
Which is?
Stating that, I don't remember her name, and if I did, I wouldn't.
No. The story, and so you can remind the listeners, yeah.
Okay. The Mad Greek is where two of the victims worked, and people were wondering and, speculating whether or not BK met them through the Mad Greek somehow that way and started following them, etc. And no one really knows. However, a woman comes forward who claims to be a former employee of the Mad Greek, and she claims that he was there on 2 occasions and ordered a vegan pizza. I don't believe this story. To me, there's there's just something that doesn't sit right with me about this. And this is the reason why the owner of the Mad Greek put out a beautiful memorial page on their Facebook page because two of the victims did work there. And then after this story came out last week, I believe it was, the Mad Greek again came forward and said, listen, this story is not true. And he said that when the crime happened, everyone at the Mad Greek restaurant, all the employees, everyone there, agreed no one was going to make any statements, talk to the press, if they had anything to say, it would be to law enforcement and law enforcement only. And they decided to do this. To me, that struck a nerve because the former employee doesn't say, well, how far back she was employed. I'm just not buying it because, well, if you have this information, clearly you went to law enforcement and you gave this statement to law enforcement. Now, if this person did that, would law enforcement instruct them, please do not discuss this with anyone else?
Well,
Andrea.
Oh, I would think so. And especially, given not just the gag order now, but also, what was happening before he was even identified as the suspect, and kind of the need to not tip him off that potentially he's being looked at. I'm very, very skeptical of this story myself, mainly because it's the type of report of something that you would have no need to remember that at the time. He's just another dude coming into a restaurant, ordering another meal. Like, what is significant about that causes that to jump out in your mind as something worth remembering? And so it just seems to me like a situation where either, yes, it can be a fabrication. I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt that they aren't like being malicious when they lie. But people do misremember things all the time. And it could be a situation where, she just maybe thought she remembered somebody that looked like him, conflated it. I mean, there I think are a variety of explanations for why she's saying this. But yes, my view, had this happened, she would have gone to police. She would have shared that information. Police would have followed up on it. Police would have, tried to have her do a lineup, see if she can identify him out of a photo lineup. They would be doing the same things with the other employees. They'd be looking through the receipts, the registers, if there's any, surveillance, any video footage that they have, from the restaurant. They'd be basically doing everything that they could to try to make that connection. And so the fact that none of that, did in fact come through, I suppose it doesn't mean that it couldn't have happened since he was charged and the gag order was put into place. But it just that just seems unlikely to me in light of this statement, from the restaurant owner saying that basically none of this happened.
May I add things why I'm not? I kind of think it may be real, it may be true, and then I want your opinion. And I don't think, like, the way I'm going to present it may not even work in the court of law, but this is what I got. Okay. I looked at the Mad Greek, and listen to me real quick. Listen to this. The Mad Greek posted, their grief that they lost two former employees. They also stated that those two one of them was in charge of their Instagram. We got the story about Kohlberger following them on Instagram. That's the link that's very possible link. He went to the restaurant looking for vegan food, right? Maybe he wasn't looking for these particular people to be victims, but maybe he was looking for victims. And he went to this restaurant and he liked it, looked at the Instagram, saw the two waitresses or cooks, I don't know what their positions were, working there. He saw that they were constantly updating. They may, and then They may have been tagged. They may have tagged themselves. He followed them. There's the link to Instagram. That's a possible way he befriended them and followed them on. Not well, because they weren't following back, but the way he followed them. That's number one. Number two, I looked at the restaurant. It is extremely small. Like literally 20 people fit there. Okay. Very, very personal. Number three, when someone orders vegan, that's weird. Okay. It's, well, I love vegan stuff, but it's still something they have to put in a specialty. You know, they have to cook it separately. They do. They have to bring the stuff to get it ready. It takes a little longer. It takes different care because usually the restaurant's in a momentum of cooking stuff that has meat and everything. So like, hey, we got this order. Okay, well now we have to do something that has maybe Beyond Meat or whatever it is. That's number three. Number four, the gag order came out after the lady that worked there supposedly spoke, which probably pissed off the judge, I'm thinking. Okay. Number five, the interview was conducted right in front of the Mad Greek on its property where people eat. If I was an owner that didn't know this person, see the cameras out, I'd be like, get the F out of here. There was nothing like that. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so far there hasn't been, and number six, there hasn't been anyone that said the owner didn't come out and say, hey, this lady never worked here. Okay. Now I'm thinking that the reason they're backtracking, because look, at the end of the day, they don't want the attention, but they brought the attention to them by putting the post. And I don't blame them, right? I don't blame them because they probably love their employees, right? But that's the clues that I have, that I'm thinking that it is quite possible that he did eat there because, and also, you got to also remember number seven, I think I'm on my number seven reason. It's a very small town. So it's a small town, small restaurant. He's ordering vegan food. There's a lot of weird or things that are odd that you'd probably remember. Yeah. And he's older. No, he's older than a lot of the people there. He's 28. The kids there are 20, right? So have I changed your mind, please?
You haven't changed my mind, but you've made some very good points. And I do actually tend to agree with you that I wouldn't be surprised if he had been to the Mad Greek mainly for the reasons that you pointed out. This is a small town. Pullman is a small town. Even for college towns, this is not in the middle of vegan country. Okay? No. There are not going to be abundant eat out options for a strict vegan. So it does seem like not a huge stretch to me to think that, he would have found this place with this options, unless he's so poor he can't eat out at all, then, this seems like the type of place that he would choose. I'm also not going to rule out that just the manager doesn't know, or the owner doesn't know everything, about everybody and everything that they saw, doesn't know all the details of the investigation. They don't necessarily have an obligation to share that with her. Yes, they can talk and agree to do things as a team, but when it comes to, actually making the decision about what they're going to do, everybody is on their own. It's not like there's, some form of accountability, I guess, for that. So I'm not saying it's not possible. I definitely don't think it's impossible. I think it's a fairly plausible explanation for how that connection was initially made. But I remain skeptical of this particular report that just suggests, maybe firmer identification of him than I'm just inclined to believe that a person would be able to have under those circumstances.
And real quick, the mods in here, if anyone's acting up, that's doing stuff outside our roles, please take care of business. I don't know what's going on. I'm paying attention to the guests.
I'm handling it.
Yeah. If it's anything like, disrespectful, if you want to disagree with me, that's fine. I actually encourage it. Just keep it respectful.
From what I've gotten from what Andrea just said, she's going 50-50 on us.
No, I don't know. I think she's trying to be nice to you.
70-30, Julie. 70-30.
Oh, 70.
In my favor. Yes.
I just feel it's really odd the way I saw the video of the interview, that it's like, hey, I'm going to do an interview. And I think it was okay with the Mad Greek until they got all the phone calls the next day, after it was the report was run. And then when I went back and I looked at their Instagram, the Mad Greek's Instagram, and they specifically said that they handled the Instagram. I'm just like, okay, guy goes in, gets obsessed with the girls, starts looking up the place, sees them, and follows them. That's and it's like consistent with the Instagram follow. And then sends messages, doesn't understand how Instagram works, that if you're not following back, you may not see that message, takes it personal, maybe. It's all maybe, but I'm just seeing, I could see that happening. I could see, and I'm not trying to simp here, okay? But I could see dumb guys. Dumb guys ruin it for normal guys. They get offended when they think they're getting rejected. They make up a fantasy about someone they meet at a restaurant that's not really there. Oh, she's smiling at me. Well, guess what? The restaurant policy says you have to smile with the customers. You have to be nice to them. It's not like they chose to smile to you. They have to greet you. They have to be extra nice. They want your tip. They want your return business. You know what I mean?
This is a service job.
It's a service job. I walk into the gym today. I'm going to, yes, and I go to the gym, ladies and gentlemen. I go into Gold's Gym, and I see, beautiful ladies that work there saying hi to me on the way in and on the way out. And it's like, I know it's part of the job, I know it's part of the job, but I could totally see some dude say, oh man, did you see the way she was looking at me? How she said hi? It's like, no, dude, that's part of the job. The guy did the same thing, so it's like, and I just looking at that kind of scenario. Now I can't prove it.
And women around the world who have done waitressing jobs are all unanimously nodding their heads, listening to you.
Yes, I know, because and it's even at a nightclub, man. You see the guys like, you ask a girl to dance. They ask a girl to dance. She says no thanks, and they stay there. It's like, bro, move along. It's not like, hey, you want to dance? No, thank you. Are you sure? Oh, yeah. You changed my mind. I am going to dance with you. It's like, dude, when people give you a signal, move. I just don't get it. But that's what I'm saying about also the location is, if you look at the location, it's the restaurant's so small and stuff like that. Jules, any other questions before we moved on to our next topic?
Yes, I do.
Go for it.
It's also in regards to this gag order. I know that you personally feel that it does more harm than good. I do too, but for probably an entirely different reason than you do. It's because I'm nosy and I want to know everything. And if I lived out there, believe me, I would be in court every day. But I don't. But the gag order, I know that there is documents that are being sealed. Now, the discovery that's going to be coming in, is all of this going to be sealed, or can we get our hands on it through the Public Information Act and it doesn't fall under the gag order?
That's a great question. So discovery itself it doesn't usually take place through the court. It's just an exchange of documentation and information between the parties that happens behind the scenes. So in that sense, discovery never becomes public. And it's probably going to be subject to this gag order. The way that it can become public is when you need to file a motion in court. Say we have some type of discovery dispute. I need to interview somebody. This person isn't cooperating. I need the judge to authorize a deposition. I need to explain to them why, what information do they have? Why do I need to talk to them? what steps I've taken to try to do that and stuff. So I may file, parts of the police report where this person, gave an interview to police and related certain facts. That's what I need to explore. I may need to file that to support my motion. Once the document is filed in court, the sealing is very, very limited. It's not that the court documents themselves can't be sealed, but it's pretty rare. And my impression, at least, of how the court has kind of tried to strike the balance with managing the information side of the case is to crack down really hard on all of the extrajudicial stuff, all of the stuff that is not taking place in the court, but being quite open, frankly, with the public filings, the public process, the allowing the cameras in. Okay, they're not allowing the live streaming, but they are allowing the process to be filmed, to be documented. They've got the special website up, just for him, for the access for the public documents. So I don't expect that there would be an awful lot that we would see sealed at this point in time. Now that could change as it gets closer to trial, because they will be litigating things like what's admissible evidence, what wouldn't be excluded. Those are the types of things that can be prejudicial to the defendant, because, if you've got evidence that's never going to come in and the jury's never going to hear about it, you stick it in the court file and all the prospective jurors, can come in and read it. And now you've got a problem with your jury pool. And that's kind of what happened with Depp versus Heard too. Just kind of thinking back on that one as well. Everything was very, very public right up until right before trial. Then there was kind of this blanket seal, and then we got everything, after the fact. So something like that is possible, but I don't expect to see that on an ongoing basis.
I see.
My mom, by the way, my mom was one of the biggest fans of Nerd Report. When I first started, it was that one view I had when I go live. That's my mom. And she's saying very good show to both of you ladies. And she's happy that you all are supporting the channel and everything. So
thank you, Mrs. Lecca.
Thank you, Mrs. Lecca.
Yeah.
I love Mrs. Lecca.
Thank you.
I do love her. I think I love her more than Lewis does.
I know you do. What are you talking about? I know you do.
Okay, she just clicked off.
No, she's good. She's like, when we've had previous shows and we're letting the guests go, because sometimes we used to have a lot of callers, and sometimes we do. She goes, "Don't you click off Jules? She has to end the show with you." And I'm like,
I didn't know that.
Oh shit! I should have said anything.
We do have, but Lewis, we have a question for Andrea in the chat.
Let's do it.
This is from Jay Lord. Apparently, from what I'm reading here, may I ask a question about all the channels that seem to be really against this case come across like they are helping to give ideas for evidence to get tossed? Is that actually legal?
What do you mean against this case, though?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just reading the question.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that they're thinking that he's innocent, that he didn't do this. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, my channel, I take a defense-oriented approach to the case because that's my background, and that's kind of my perspective on when I'm kind of evaluating what are we likely to see happen. I have that perspective of what is this going to look like to a defense attorney? What are the potential roadblocks that they're, gonna try to raise, that kind of thing. It's not because I support Brian Kohlberger or want to get him off or anything like that. It's really just in terms of kind of setting expectations for, what we can see. If there is a viable, legal challenge to evidence, then I don't know that it does anybody any good to, be expecting that evidence is going to come in at trial if it's, if there's like an obvious legal challenge that I see that's likely to be granted. So that, just for what it's worth, is kind of the motivation behind my approach. And the information that I offer about the case and on my channel. Is it legal? Absolutely. It's legal commentary and analysis. I'm looking at the public record that is out there that's available to everybody. I'm looking at that from, having the background of a practicing attorney, understanding, the processes and the legal principles at stake and stuff, and just trying to kind of shed some light on that for people who don't have, the law school background.
Totsky 18 in the chat has a question. Has the pretrial been moved to April? They said that they heard a motion was requested by the defense. Have you heard anything about that? Because I sure haven't.
I haven't, but I can definitely look and see.
Well, that's cool.
I think that I'm trying to remember. I vaguely remember, except the cases start to run together, so I don't want to say anything. I was thinking there may already be a discovery issue in this case, but yeah, I don't want to say that for sure. Okay, here's his case. Notice of hearing criminal. That's the preliminary hearing for June. So yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
Okay. Well, there's your answer, Totsky 18. No.
There is a motion for reduction of bail that was filed back on January 11th. That's
we know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, the merits of that one are not real promising. But I don't necessarily see that there is going to be another hearing at this point.
What Dada in the I don't know if I said that correctly, but wants to know about the discovery issue. Wasn't there a discovery that was supposed to be coming through for March?
Yeah, well, so what happened is on June 10th, Ann Taylor filed her formal demand for discovery. And so this is basically the way that the Idaho discovery process works. There are only very limited things that the prosecutor is required to disclose, whether you ask for it or not. And that's basically exculpatory information. Like if they have anything that tends to prove you're innocent, they have to give you that, but they don't have to give you anything else unless you ask for it. So this motion is basically her formally asking for the stuff that under the rule, the prosecutor has to give it to her once she asks. And they have, I want to say it's a 14-day turnaround to be able to do that. Like I said, this all happens behind the scenes. This isn't something that the court is going to oversee. We're only going to learn that, there's some problem with this, some argument about it if a motion gets filed. So at this point, there really is not a discovery issue.
Lewis?
Well, what do you see in this case? What do you think the main topic is right now? Do you think it's the gag order? Because it goes in waves, right? Well, Idaho 4, right? It's the dog, one day, and then what they found the next day, and we have Brian Kohlberger kissing some woman on surveillance, and we have, I've heard that. What do you think is and right now, I guess it's the gag order kind of with the restaurant is the main thing. What do you think? Where do you see the trend going with it? What's the next?
Well, I think that if the press organizations do challenge the gag order, that's, I'm certainly going to be interested in that and paying attention to that. It's legally quite compelling.
Nice.
So, type of thing I will want to follow. But otherwise, I think it's likely to just kind of be a little bit more of the same. Just the drip of whatever little bit of information can be uncovered. There's just such a hunger in this case. People want to know why this happened. I think that's really the driving factor behind it is because we don't know the motive at all.
Yeah.
People want to answer that because you don't feel safe if you don't understand why something like this happened. If you understand why it happened, then you think, okay, it won't happen to me. I can defend myself. I can protect myself, that kind of thing. So there's just a hunger for information about why he did it. And I think as long as that hunger is there, there's going to be, sources out there looking for little morsels that they can feed it.
You remember how big the Gabby Petito case was, right? Any video would go viral. And then now we're like, we're in the court, the lawsuit with the Petito family against the Laundries. And we see like, not that it doesn't really matter because we're still reporting, but you see the news, like people got bored of it. I mean, I hate to say it, not us.
Nationally,
Yeah.
yes, Lewis, you're correct. But here in the state of Florida,
Okay.
this is still this.
But you're
is
the
still big
mecca.
here.
You're the mecca of it. That's where it happened, right? And
And I think that's a lot of the same thing because a lot of the questions were answered. They found Gabby, they found Brian, they found the note. It didn't leave a whole lot of loose ends to tie up, I guess. I suppose the loose end is whether you believe that note or not.
well, here's another thing I want, and we'll pivot a little bit if you don't mind, unless you have a closing statement about the Brian here, Kohlberger. Do you have anything else to add to that, Jules? Or
I don't. I'm good. I think we covered as
Andrea?
much as we could for what we know.
Yeah,
Audrey?
I think we've covered a lot on that case.
Okay, you guys better be subbed to her because she's kicking ass here. Press 1 if you're subbed. Okay, that's it. Moving on to this topic, and I don't want to be respectful in the comments. We're not gonna. I'm gonna ask you to please don't. Let's not talk about the gun control debate, but I want to ask this question though because we've had 3 mass shootings in California, right? But the one that I want to ask you about is this guy in Half Moon who turned himself in, and we had the guy in Monterey Park by Alhambra. Mm-hmm. He ran, but he ended himself. My question is, if they would have caught the guy that didn't end himself. And then we got the guy that did turn himself in, totally different, right? But kind of the same act. Is there a difference in like the approach to that? Is it beneficial to just turn yourself in, or is it treated the same way in the court of law? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, the guy that offed himself is never going to have a day in court,
right? But what if they caught him? What if they caught him?
That one. But it doesn't really change anything in terms of the process that obviously the first responders have to go through, but the police in terms of making their determinations of what happened, how it happened, why it happened. Anytime there's tragedies like this, there are potentially wrongful death lawsuits, lurking in the wings. It depends on, if he's got any resources worth going after, if he's got insurance that could potentially be liable, basically a deep pocket that you can find responsible for that. That can complicate, the situation, and it's definitely different if you're filing that type of claim against an estate than if you're filing it, against a living person who is maybe, going to end up criminally convicted of this, this crime, and that makes your job as the civil lawyer a whole lot easier. So there are those types of things that can change in that situation. Right.
Well, what about the I want to say kid, he's 26, but I'm at the age where I can call him a kid. I don't know if you're familiar, but the one that took the gun away from the suspect or the shooter in Alhambra, could he have potentially gotten in trouble if it would have gone if it would have turned into a full-on fight where he had to use the weapon against the gunner?
I don't know the details of that. You'll have to fill me in on the details of that particular one.
Okay, so I mean, look, I don't know 100% of the details because all this stuff's always evolving and there's stuff that's not really even reported, sure. Right? So as far as what we know, there's Chinese New Year, and during a celebration in Alhambra or Monterey Park, which is a city here by Los Angeles, the bordering city, there was a mass shooting inside a dance hall, like where, I don't want to say elderly, but older people go and they do ballroom dancing, right? So a 72-year-old man went in there and shot 20 people, it looks like, and 11 of them are not with us anymore. And there's 9 in the hospital, as far as I understand. Then he drove 2 miles somewhere to another ballroom, another dance hall, and tried to do the same thing. Well, the owner, 26-year-old kid, looks like a kid, saw him and goes, you're not doing this over here. It's not even it's on video actually, and got into a full-on fight with him and took the weapon away.
Him.
Yeah, disarmed him.
Wow.
Right. There's punches involved. There's everything, right? And I was telling people the other day that even though he's 72, there are people that are mentally ill that are stronger than 10 men, put together, so don't think 72-year-old can't F stuff up, right? So we saw him do that. He took the weapon away, but and now he's hailed as a hero. Just so you know,
that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, but the just so you know, the suspect went to Torrance. It's another area here, and ended himself. So he can't, he can't stand trial or whatever. But my question is, because a lot of times there's people frustrated when they see a crime, and instead of people coming in and helping, they videotape it. They don't want to get involved. And I got to say, I'm one of those people, I wouldn't get involved. And the reason is because I don't know the law. I don't know that if I get involved trying to stop a crime and I end up hurting the shooter in this instance, I would get in trouble. I don't know. Do you think potentially disarming a shooter like that and grabbing the weapon and maybe using it against the shooter, would that kid have been in trouble? Is there potential some kind of law he breaks, or what would you advise a good Samaritan? Would you advise them to go for it, or?
Well, this is a situation where it's going to be dependent on your state, and it's also going to just be very, very fact dependent on really exactly how the situation has evolved. Your justification for using force against this man to take his weapon away is defense of self and defense of others. If you are threatened, others are reasonably threatened with serious bodily harm or death, you can use reasonable force against somebody to prevent that from happening. So the issue with intervening is that you'd better be right, because if you're wrong, for example, like, so you see, you see a fight that's happening on the street and you go in to break it up, and somebody, swings at you and you beat that person, and that person ends up in the hospital. But it turns out that person was not the provoker of the fight. The other person was the provoker of the fight. Then, it changes the dynamics of what you're doing and who you're helping, depending on how all of that stuff is unfolded. So it is a little bit at your peril when you choose to intervene in something like that. Some states do have Good Samaritan laws. There's like specific protections that they put on the books to say, if you intervene, in a situation, you render aid, or, try to prevent, a violent crime from taking place, something like that. You're not going to be liable, as long as you act reasonably under the circumstances. You don't do something crazy and disproportionate. So if you're in one of those states, it's going to be a lot, easier, a lot more favorable for you to do that type of intervention. If you don't have it, then it really kind of is at your risk, because you are potentially committing an assault. The issue is that whether or not it's justified. And so in this particular situation, it sounds like it's justified based on, what he knew and what was going on. But if it wasn't, if he had misjudged the guy, if it just looked a lot like the same guy, there are different ways you could misread it, then now you're the one who committed the crime by doing what you did.
Well, in this case, he had an automatic weapon in his hand. So he was up to no good.
Probably a good clue.
A good clue, unless it was like a water gun. Jules, you want to add anything to our conversation today?
I thought that was a great question, and it makes me think twice now about if I would actually want to intervene
Yeah, that's the problem. It's easy to
Andrea.
criticize.
It's a really tough one.
You have a family, right? Let's say you have a family, right? I'm just hypothetically speaking, and your responsibilities, your kids and parents, everyone, right? And
there's no doubt there. I would definitely intervene.
Well, no. But if you see something happening in the street, are you gonna get involved? And no, it's like, I'm gonna film it. And people criticize that, but guess why I'm going to film it? So I could turn it into the authorities later,
That's a double-edged sword. That really is because look, all right, I'm going to take this where I probably shouldn't take it. But
again?
There and yeah.
Oh, man.
Let's go to George Floyd.
Okay.
25 people watched this man literally pass away in front of their eyes. Yes, they were trying to intervene. There was one officer that was making it extremely difficult for them to intervene. People videotaped it. What else were they supposed to do? These people that were in that position, had it not been for them with their cameras out, we would never have known what happened to George Floyd. I mean, we just wouldn't. That's a fact. Now, if it was not law enforcement that was participating in this act, would it change your perspective about people just standing there and videotaping and not intervening?
If it wasn't police?
Attempting to, I'm saying, what I'm saying is we know what law enforcement officers did to this man.
Yes.
Let's take the law enforcement officers out of the equation, and now let's put 4 civilians there committing this act against George Floyd. And you've got the same 25 people on the sidewalk screaming, he's going to pass. He's going to pass. You got to stop. You got to do something. And everybody's got their cameras out and everybody's, and some people are trying to intervene. And one of them says, no, back up, stay away from this. Is it the same situation? Am I comparing apples to oranges or is it not?
I don't even know what a civilian would have. That some civilians have bigger guns than the cops at this point.
But
you know what I mean?
But what I'm saying,
I get what you're saying, and I think that's a very, very good point, because you can understand the restraint of the people at the time from not actually physically intervening to save him is because it's the police, because
Correct.
You can't, you're obstructing, you're assaulting a police officer, you're doing all these things that that's not really what you're signing up for, to try to help somebody like that. But so if those things are not on the table, then that self-interest side of the equation, that self-preservation side of the equation, doesn't come into play so directly like that. I think it's a much harder decision to make if it's not a police officer.
Andrea, if one of them, there was one guy in particular I was impressed with that was out there on that sidewalk, but if just one of them, or more than whatever, if they had a decision been made that they were going to overtake
bloodbath
the law enforcement officers because they knew for a fact that this man was going to pass, and it was proven, would that be a case that you would defend these people for taking matters into their own hands? Because I would imagine that they would be charged for like you said, for obstructing.
They would be curb stomped, and then they would be charged. Yes,
they would get their ass whipped, right?
But if it was proven,
absolutely.
But if it was proven that their act, in fact, saved that man's life, would they really be punished for that?
Well, I would definitely take that case. I don't know that it's a 100% winnable case. I think you can make a very good argument to win that case. And it always, a lot of it just does come down to the jury's common sense. They're capable of looking at a situation and figuring out what is right and wrong. And that, guides the majority of our moral type of decision making. But it's a difficult proof problem, if he would have died, now it's counterfactual problem. You always have a problem relying on the counterfactual. How do you prove he would have died? It seemed, kind of like an unfortunate situation that he died anyway. Like it wasn't, yes, we saw it happen. And maybe, clearly, according to the jury, the police should have been aware, that this was happening and been able to render aid to him and stuff. But, it's an unusual enough situation, I guess, that being able to paint that picture had it not actually happened. It's kind of like you said with having the cameras there, because the cameras were there, we got to see for ourselves. Yeah, this is what happens in these types of situations. This is the treatment. This is, the response. And you can't really substitute for having that image. So had that not happened, I don't think we'd probably still be taking it as seriously as, we now do, because we saw a man die from it.
Well, I don't have a problem with people pulling out their cameras and start filming, because we don't know. There's been a lot of criticism for, like here in Florida, oh gosh, the crime rate here in Florida is ridiculous. But everybody's got their cameras out. And people are saying, well, why'd you pull your camera out? Why didn't you help that person? Well, I feel like you don't know the person that pulled the camera out. You don't know if they have a physical disability. Yeah. You don't know if what it's doing to them, mentally by witnessing something, and their first instinct is to. I'm not a proponent of, if you see something, take action in a physical sense. I mean, if all you're capable of doing is pulling out, your phone and recording, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's as good as evidence as, you can get when it comes to a court of law. No?
Oh, it's great. And I imagine there have been situations where videos like that have been an absolute gift, to one side or another. I'm not here to suggest that anybody has a duty to be a warrior. Physical violence isn't for everybody. Mm-hmm. And that's just the reality. It's an individual moral question. We all have to kind of struggle with it. I'm not prepared to say, what other people should be doing under those types of circumstances.
Andrea, Shutterbug in the chat has a question for you. I love this question. I can't wait for the answer.
Oh boy.
Do you have any aspirations in becoming a judge? Because they think you would be a good judge.
Thank you. That's very complimentary. I really appreciate it. The idea of going on the bench is definitely something that I have kicked around in my head for quite a number of years, but I don't think it's likely to be something that I pursue. And there's a few different reasons for that. But the bottom line is just that being a judge is a political process in my state. Judges are elected, or they sometimes you can get an appointment if somebody retires, between terms. You can get appointed by the governor, and then you have to run for re-election. But so it's a very political process, and that does not appeal to me in a lot of ways.
I see a professional boxing career in your future. Let me look at my crystal ball.
I'm past the age where that would be viable. But I tell you, if I had found boxing when I was 13, I don't think I'd have this law degree.
Yeah.
Really? Wow. No.
Well, you know, a lot of boxers, as we're pivoting again, because you do practice the sport, they need good representation. A lot of them, you know, I was talking about this in the gym today, as a matter of fact, we were talking about like all the old school boxers, like they're in really bad shape. And a lot of times it's because the promoters rip them off during their career. You know, they had everything on borrowed money. You know, we even talk about Mike Tyson, regardless, you know, of all his convictions. Like, he was on all the stuff he had wasn't even his; it was Don King's. You know, so he had to build himself up again after his retirement. You know, he has the pot company, he has the podcast, and he's not as rich as he should be because all those apparently a lot of those fights weren't going into his bank account. The money wasn't going to his bank account. So I don't know, maybe boxers need some representation, especially health issues they have nowadays. And a lot of sports people got ripped off. You know, they've been ripped off.
Maybe they do. And it was not more than a couple months ago that it was Gervonta Davis. Old Tank Davis was making some comments about his contract with PBC and how he wasn't happy with that. Oh, Tank, here I am. You want to shoot me the contract? I will happily give you my 2 cents on that contract.
What's sad is a lot of the boxers, though, they're I don't know about this boxer. What's his name? Tank Davis or who?
Tank Davis, yeah.
Okay. I don't know his background, right? But a lot of boxers, they're not thinking you know, they're not thinking like a chess move. They're thinking checkers. And and it's like, yeah, you just said that and I would be calling you if I was a boxer. Like, let's have
Call me boxers. I'll look at your contracts.
Yeah, absolutely. And
we'll start promoting you.
They don't. They make the same mistakes. Mike Tyson went to prison. He goes back to Don King. You know, as soon as he comes out, he's back with Don King. And guess what? Don King's not dumb.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that it's a little bit of the dark side, you know, the ugly side of the sport, because it's, you know, it's a hard sport. And so much of the fighters, they depend on trust. You know, they have to trust their team. They have to trust their coach. They have to trust their promoter. I mean, yes, these guys aren't going to law school. They don't, you know what the lines are. They're counting on other people to help protect them that way. And there are just so many predators in the fight pool, you know, that it's very easy to misplace that trust.
Still nowadays, we have the same problem because I stopped watching the sport a few years ago. Is there a lot of snakes, sharks, like they call them in that industry?
I mean, Don King is still putting fights on.
He's still putting fights on?
What more can I say?
Whoa.
He just put one on like 2 weeks ago, I think. Maybe last weekend.
Did Mike Tyson pay for it? Because he was doing that.
Right? And then, one way or another, he probably did.
Yeah, that's crazy. Andrea Burkhart, who's subscribed? Who's subscribed today? Press that one button as you spend a few hours here. Amazing insight. Answering everyone's questions. And man, Julie asked a lot of questions, so she deserves.
She asks great questions.
She does.
Julie asks great questions.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Hey, what am I? Chopped liver, Andrea? What's going on?
Well, but are you the court reporter that Julie has established herself to be?
Oh my gosh. You want to pull rank? All right. Well, look, I'm going to up my game. So I'm going to up my game. Next time you're in here, I'm going to be like, well, I did this and that. So there we go.
I don't know. I'm going to be in court in March for the next Petito hearing.
Show off. No one likes a show off. Okay, Julie?
I'm just doing my job.
Exactly. I don't know how much more time do you have. You're welcome to stay with us, but we wanted to call Brandon Torres to see what's going on with him. I guess there's a storm going on in Texas, and a tree tornado fell on his house. I mean, a tree fell in his house. Wow. Ouch.
Yes.
You're welcome to stay for that. But if not, if you want to just close it off with some final thoughts, what's coming up with your channel, it's up to you.
I do have to dip. I'm afraid. Do send him my best, and I hope everything is well with him and his family.
Thank you.
That's not a good situation to be dealing with. Yeah, my closing on the Idaho 4 is really just to be aware that because we are entering the lull phase, there is going to be, I expect, a lot of difficult stuff to weed through, things that you don't know if you should trust them or not. I've been thinking about actually making a video for my channel to talk about how I, as a lawyer, kind of engage with media reports about cases, and like, how do I, figure out this is worth listening to, this isn't worth listening to, that kind of thing. So just to make sure people are alert, got your critical thinking hats on, don't be too credulous about what you hear. It is good to be skeptical of a lot of these things until there's just, a little more official, process that we can hang our hat on to kind of confirm and authenticate some of that stuff. So
I can't wait for you to drop that video.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Yeah, don't worry. Jules will be calling you tomorrow at 4 a.m. So when are you coming back?
We'll schedule it, Jules. We'll do it.
We gotta schedule it.
It may be his channel, but we just
dang
you
it.
and I will do.
I figured that out in the first 5 minutes.
Andrea, once again, thank you. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Watch out for her.
Luis.
Watch out for her left hook on her channel. It's awesome. So go and subscribe and check out our latest video there, and some upcoming stuff, which is going to be pretty interesting. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Andrea. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was great, Jules. Thanks for that, Jules. So how do you feel? Great interview, huh?
Yeah, today was like a really good day.
Yes.
And I mean, it's sad with what happened with Brandon, and we'll get to that. But for the most part, it was like last night was a great night, and this morning, it was great being at the courthouse. And I spoke with Joe Petito personally, off the record, and then Louis, if you don't mind, I want to
Andrea
everybody.
Froze though. She froze on screen. Oh no, there she is. Okay, yeah. All right. So right now, world premiere. Jules is wearing. Lisa, you want to check this out? Jules is wearing for the first time. My mom made this. It's a nice little cap right there. Oh, that looks great.
Oh, I love it, guys. Like, this is so freaking adorable.
It is.
Come on, guys, in the chat, what do you think? What do you think? Is this Mrs. Lecca made this for me, and it's got the pom-pom on top, and it fits perfectly, and I'm thrilled. See, Denise thinks it's so cute. Am I still on?
Yeah, you're still on. I can hear you.
Okay, because I couldn't hear you. This is hat number one.
Hat number one.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you
Hat number two.
hat number two. If you guys like kitties.
Oh, that looks good. The ears. That's it. That's the look. I need that emoji now.
I love it.
We need that emoji.
This is the most adorable thing you have ever seen.
That looks really good.
And not to mention, but anyone that knows me knows that red is my favorite color ever, and black is my second favorite color. So hats off to Mrs. Lecca, but I have one more.
There's one more? Wow, she really spoils you.
Yeah, your mom spoiled me. I love this one, guys.
Oh, that's like...
Look, with the eyes.
You see what she said with the eyes?
I love it.
Yeah, they look good.
Mrs. Lecca, I love you, and I've got a little something on the way. And shut up, Lewis. Mind your business. It's between me and your mom. And yeah. So
I think they look really good on you, Jules.
I know. I love it. This one, I saved this one for last because I just look.
They look really good. Are they warm? Look at the eyes.
Look. I just love it. Anyway, that's my modeling. My modeling.
Your modeling career.
Yeah, that's my modeling career. I think I should take on a part-time job modeling hats. But
that'd be good.
Oh my goodness gracious! I just absolutely. Between these two, I think this one's my favorite. But I love this one.
Honestly, they all look good on you.
I just look at how perfect this is.
She says she's glad you like them, Catwoman.
So I had a show off, and yes, Crystal Lewis's mom is so sweet. Leslie Cooler, Mrs. Lecca, she loves them too. Miss Ace, fabulous work for Mrs. Lecca. Mrs. Lecca, you're a star.
We may have those available. She wants some makeup to support the channel in the studio. I don't know if you all are interested. Let me know. Press those hearts in the comments. But only if you are interested. It's okay if you're not. Because then if you press the heart and then she takes the time to make them and then no one cares, it's okay if you guys aren't interested right now. But I think they look great.
Yeah, and or what you can do is you can send me the DM. Don't send it to Lewis. Send it to me, and then I can tell Lewis to have his mom do it.
Yeah.
See, look, you've got Miss Ace, Aaron, Denise. Yeah, there are people that would be interested in. Alice Martinez wants one. Yeah, so guys, just hit me up if you're really serious. And then I will give you the information on how to obtain one, and we'll get with Mrs. Lecca. We'll work it out. So, are we going to get Brandon on the phone now?
Well, apparently he's not answering the phone.
Are you Oh, I wonder if he's having.
Please leave your message for 8.
Yeah, I'm not gonna put the. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, don't put his number.
Well, look, we'll talk to Brandon later.
I'm calling.
Is he calling
too? Yeah. He was helping the next door neighbor's house got really badly damaged, and he was helping the people get out.
Well, meanwhile, Theta, thanks for the super chat. Jules, it's so amazing to see you break out of your shell. Do you have your own channel now?
No. What are you talking about?
I don't let her.
Lewis?
I don't clip that. Clip that.
Oh, that was that was a super chat. No, I don't. I
don't let her. I'd fire her. Just kidding. Clip it.
Listen.
I already told her. I already had the
truth. It's the truth. Lewis fires me.
It's on the contract.
Every other day. But hey, I called him last night because I was out last night, and I was like, the hearing for the Petitos is tomorrow. Are we going to cover it? And he's like, well, you don't have to if you don't want to. Thank you, Leslie. I look so pretty. Thank you. I appreciate you. But I did it, and I did not know that I was on WFLA. I had no idea.
You were.
Until I spoke to, I was trying to I messaged Lewis in the morning, like 9 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock his time. And, told him I was on my way to the courthouse. And then after court was over and I, was done. By the way, Lewis, are you going to show the interviews?
Yeah, hold on. The ones you sent me, you only sent 2 and I couldn't download them. I couldn't download them. They're going to have to be in tomorrow. Ross Ferguson, thanks for the super chat. Gene Rick as well. Thanks for the support there. So we do have more footage of Jules coming up.
Yeah, it was it was great. Thank you, Suri. I appreciate you. She likes my hair. But yeah, this is my niche, and I'm trying, guys. I don't know. Would you like to see Lewis cover more of these things? This type of content? Let us know in the chat, or send, hit us up with DMs on Twitter or whatever. But just be prepared, though. Lewis has a tendency to fire me every other day.
Yeah, I fire her all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
well, this is what's happening right now, Jules, and everyone watching. Ladies and gentlemen, Lewis is hungry, and when he gets hungry, he tries to shut down the channel. He wants to get off, so we're gonna have to deal with it. Well, anyways, guys. On screen, that's the Jules part of the interview. It's not the entire interview. We dropped a video, and I need you all call to arms to support the video, because it should have way more views. Of course, what else is new? But let me drop the video, the link to the video. Have you guys seen it? Did you guys see the video that dropped earlier? Gabby Petito updates. Let me see.
And I'm going to assume, Lewis, that in March you're going to want me to cover that hearing as well, right?
100%.
Well, here's the thing. I need a microphone. I need something to go. I need like, never mind. We'll talk later. You're going to have to.
You need a tripod, a microphone.
I don't know what I need, but I need something in order to, it was kind of, I mean, both attorneys were cool with me doing it like this, but it's not really professional, because the girl that was standing next to me, her name is Allison from WFLA, our big news station here in the state of Florida, and she actually had a camera person with the big camera set up, and her name was Avis, and she did a great job. She is the one who filmed it inside the courtroom as well. And Allison had a microphone and holding a microphone, up to both Mr. Riley and Mr. Luca. And here I was asking my questions with this.
Well, they filed a motion in.
They're both high definition.
Anyway.
They're both high definition. No, we could get a mic and lighting and stuff like that. But did you guys watch the video? Yes or no? Let me know in the comments. If not, I'm dropping the link in the comments. Head over there, leave a comment, press like, share the video. It's Jules via Hey JB, WFLA now. We have more to show you from on location. Jules has some more video she's sending to me. We're going to edit it and probably have it up tomorrow from what it looks like, because Brandon was on it, but Brandon has a few things he has to take care of. So, but this is still cool, because the lawyer actually was trying to walk away, and Jules is like, you got to answer this question. So she pulled a baller move. But
is that what you call it?
I don't know.
Seriously, is that what you call it?
Yeah.
So it's good to be aggressive like that?
No.
Oh, really?
You did it nice. I mean, it got the job done.
They were both very kind.
You could tell the vibe if they want to continue the interview or not. If they show you that they don't, you just leave them alone. You got to also remember they're on camera, and it could go everywhere. And if they act like a DICK, everyone's going to see that. So, anyways, Jules, let's take care of that tomorrow.
Hey, I've got Brandon on the line. I have him.
Well, yeah, I don't have him on the line here.
Brandon, call Lewis right now.
Everyone left.
Oh. Well, he hung up and he's calling you now. So I need to be more aggressive in my reporting. Is that
no? It was fine. It was fine.
And Lewis, I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Did I make you proud?
You made me proud. I got 50 people called me and like, Jules is on the news. Jules is on the news.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yeah. Anyways, we're out of time, Jules. I'm sorry.
All right.
It's 2 hours
Okay.
and stuff, so you know how I get at this time.
Yeah. I know. Cranky.
But anyways, last any last thoughts?
Again, I always end with be kind. Mind your words because they matter. You never know what someone's going through. I hope everyone enjoyed today's stream. I know I did. I hope we'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
We have more videos coming out tomorrow, and let's fill the comments with hearts for Jules for taking care of business and wearing those hats, which are cool. All right, guys, we'll talk to you later. Nerd out. You're like a little kid.